What's good, Broad Street Bullies? On YouTube, like and subscribe. I'm here with another video to drop, and I just want to talk about the average mistakes the average guy or fantasy football player makes during the draft. So here's some mistakes that I know in my 21 years of playing fantasy football. I'm 33 now. I've been playing fantasy football since 13. So actually, yeah, it's going on 21 years now. So look, being a ranking slave and being an ADP slave. Look, when you draft, ADP and rankings, ADP, first of all, is just a guide of where a player might go, but it's not the end all or be all. When you draft your teams, you have to consider the fact that you're drafting against different people. You're drafting against your home leagues or just randoms. You don't know how people will draft. You might expect Justin Jefferson to go first, and let's say you don't have the first pick, but you have the 5th pick. What if Justin Jefferson drops to the 5th? This is why you can't rely on rankings and ADP, because a ranking might say another thing. A ranking might have Patrick Mahomes going as the number 1 pick, but he mess around and go in the 2nd or 3rd round in a draft, and you're like stunned because you expected him to be there at a certain time and he wasn't. Don't be a ranking slave or an ADP slave. Like, you never know how people would draft. I've done mock drafts already. I've been putting in the work. I've been through a dynasty draft or two, and it's unpredictable of where people might go. I seen a draft that somebody did the other day. They had Patrick Mahomes. They took him in the 1st round. The 1st pick, actually. So don't be a ranking slave or one of them ADP addicts. It's not going to lead you anywhere. Like, at the end of the day, drafting the best players that you can get is the goal. And that's why I said in my previous videos, don't fear reaching. Because if you're following ADP and you like, man, this guy's going to be there, and you're waiting around to get him, and somebody snags him within the next pick, you missed out on the player that you wanted on your team because you was following ADP when you could have just grabbed them. Look, don't fear reaching. Like, people sometimes can make mistakes because, people will consider a reach. They'll be like, oh, he reached on that player. Or maybe he didn't. Maybe he felt something about that player. He or she felt something about that player. They took him, and that player outperformed what other people can think. So when you're in drafts, if you see somebody that you want, and depending on the size of your draft, whether it's a 12-teamer, a 14-teamer, or a 16-teamer, get the player you want. Because especially in them deep leagues, you're not going to be able to get that player if you don't get them when you need to get them. Because chances are that player is going to be taken. Another another mistake people might make is not being focused during your drafts. Now, when I say not being focused, I mean, like, look, we all have lives to live. We all have different things. Even on draft day, you got kids, you got children, you got a wife, you got a family, or maybe you're just a single man but you have to run some errands, whatever. Single man or single woman. There's women out there that play fantasy football too. And something comes up. You don't want to not be focused. And look, I'm guilty of it too. People like myself, I consider myself experienced. So I've done driven in cars, drafting at the same time. I've been out drafting at the same time. You never know what's going to happen. But for the most part, when your draft season's right upon us, try to be focused as you can. Try to be focused. I know people, they like to get lit. They like to get, maybe a little high before the draft. That's cool if you can focus, but don't get shit-faced drunk or shit-faced high, and next thing you know, you're stumbling over your draft board. You can't focus properly. You're drafting the wrong players. Make sure that you are focused 100%. But we do understand that you never know what can happen during the draft. An emergency can happen. Emergency can happen. Anything can happen. So that brings you to my next point. Sometimes people don't make. You should queue up your players, whether it's in a free or pay league, just in case shit happens, because shit can happen. So always have your players queued up, because you could be in a pay league draft and out of nowhere a blackout happens and your internet cuts off, your power's off and everything like that. And that's who, if he's watching this video, my guy Tim from this Facebook group, he had that problem happen, but he queued up his players and he left the draft, he said, was a solid draft. So queue up your players. You never know what happens. You know, you got kids, you got wife, anything can happen. Your kid could fall ill, be in the hospital or something, family emergency. Queue up your players. And also you queue up your players because sometimes during fantasy football season there's a lot of people drafting on these servers. So when you get these servers can go down. A lot of mistakes, like Sleeper last year is a great app, but sometimes Sleeper tends to glitch a little bit during the draft. Sometimes it's not every draft, but it can happen, and it has happened in a couple drafts I was in last year. And when that happens and you're not able to pick a player, you should have a player queued up, already ready to go. At least a couple players queued up, so you get at least one of your four or five options that you queued up. Also, when you get into drafts, if you in home leagues or you know people in your draft, do not draft with the intentions of blocking their picks or being like, I'm gonna take the player they want. No, don't do that. Focus on the players you want, because you can take the players they want and they'll be mad at first, but if that player is a bust or that player underperforms, you're stuck with it. You're stuck with that 0-3 record at the beginning of the season, or that 0-4 record, or that 1-3 record, and you have to dig your way out of a playoff. I mean, dig your way back into the playoff race, so you won't be a laughingstock of your league. Number 5, have fun. Like, a lot of people make mistakes of not having fun during their draft. Like, at the end of the day, fantasy football is about fun. I know it has turned into a game that has become ultra competitive and people do not like to lose, but you should always have fun and not make the mistake of not having fun. Yeah, it's a serious time for us fantasy football addicts around the world and in the United States, but have fun during your drafts, man. You know, there's nothing wrong with having fun. Just as long as you're serious enough to pick the right players. But that's all I got for you, man. So I'm gonna leave y'all with this video, and I'm out. Stay tuned, like and subscribe.